Greetings, fellow Bible readers. Welcome to week 26 of our Bible read-through. This week, we continue our way through the book of Psalms, and as we do so, there are two features that dominate our readings for this week. One of those features is Psalm 119, which is the longest psalm in the entire book, as well as the longest chapter in the entire Bible. This psalm is a song of praise that really captures the blessings that come from the study of God's Word. And then the second feature that's worthy of note is the songs of ascent that begin with Psalm 120. Now, there's a lot of guesses and theories as to what that title, Song of Ascent, refers to. It seems that the best guess is that these songs were sung by Jews as they would go up to the city of Jerusalem for the pilgrim festivals like Passover, where they would go up to Jerusalem to worship, and they would sing these psalms as they would make their way up to the temple. So let's get down to the details for each day. On day 1, as we look at Psalms 92 through 99, you'll notice that Psalms 96 and 98 both start with very similar language. However, Psalm 96 focuses in on the physical blessings that God gives to his people. And in Psalm 98, we get an emphasis on the spiritual blessings that God gives to his people. And so a nice reminder that God cares for us, both body and soul. Then on day 2, as we look at Psalms 100 through 104, you'll want to pay special attention to Psalm 103. There are a number of pictures in this psalm, word pictures, that are used to help us envision God's forgiveness and drive home to us what that forgiveness is like and what it means for us. Then on day 3, as we look at Psalms 105 through 107, you'll want to notice how Psalms 105 and 106 present the history of that nation of Israel in poetic format. And so as you read through those two psalms, just kind of think back and reflect on all of the history and the events that we've read earlier in the year. Then on day 4, as we look at Psalms 108 through 114, you'll want to pay special attention to Psalm 110. The reason why is because this is a messianic psalm, and it is used in a number of places in the New Testament, but especially in the book of Hebrews. In fact, that book of Hebrews takes one line from that psalm, you are a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek, and spends a whole chapter unpacking the thoughts of what that means in speaking about Jesus. So a little bit of a spoiler for what's coming up when we get into the New Testament. Then on day 5, as we look at Psalms 115 through 119, verse 40, you'll want to pay special attention to Psalm 118. Again, this is a messianic psalm, and you can see parts of Jesus' ministry, especially his Holy Week ministry, in this psalm. You can see his rejection by the Jews, both in the way they rejected his teaching in the temple earlier in Holy Week, as well as ultimately their arrest of Jesus and their putting him on trial and seeking to condemn him in the way that Jesus is talked about as the capstone that the builders rejected. You can see little hints of Palm Sunday in the talk about the festal procession. You can see some hints about Jesus' resurrection in the psalmist's statements about, I will not die but live. Also, a little interesting sidelight when you get to that day 5 reading, Psalm 117 is the middle chapter of the Bible. So after you read that psalm, you can say that you are halfway through the Bible from a chapter standpoint. So congratulations on that milestone. Then on day 6, we get the remainder of Psalm 119, verses 41 to the end, 176. And one thing I'll point out about Psalm 119 is that you'll notice that it's divided up into chunks, and above each of those chunks is a weird-looking word like Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet. Those weird-looking words are actually the names of the letters in the Hebrew alphabet, and that is because Psalm 119 is what's known as an acrostic psalm. And what that means is that each line in those chunks, the first letter in each word starts with the same letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And so, for instance, in the first chunk, every line, the first word, its first letter is that Hebrew word, or starts with the Hebrew letter Aleph. So just a little bit of a detail there that doesn't really come across well in English, but is part of the way that Hebrew poetry is sometimes written. Then finally on day 7, as we look at Psalms 120 through 129, you'll notice in Psalm 121 a reminder of God's protection in a very beautiful way. In Psalm 122, you'll find a beautiful expression of our love for God's house and the hearing of his word. And then in Psalm 127, a very nice reminder of the fact that God works through people and means here in this life. And that without God's blessing and effort, all of our effort and labor is for nothing and in vain. That's all for this week. We'll see you next week.